There's a kind of connection that never makes an announcement. No confessions, no dramatic messages, no obvious declarations of longing. It exists quietly, beneath the surface. Maybe it's someone who never truly disappears from your life, someone who stays just close enough to be felt, even in silence, someone who notices you in ways that feel subtle, yet strangely intense. You sense it in how they look at you, in how they remember things you barely recall saying, in how their energy shifts the moment you step back. Psychology tells us something important. The deepest forms of attachment don't always speak out loud. They reveal themselves through behavior, and once you learn to recognize these signs, something becomes clear. They've been emotionally connected to you far longer than you realized. Sign 1. They remember the smallest details about you, not the obvious things, not the surface facts, the tiny details you mentioned once and forgot about. You casually reference a preference, a memory, a passing comment that felt insignificant. Weeks later, sometimes months later, they bring it up naturally, not to impress you, not to make a point, just because they remembered. And for a brief moment, you pause and think, how did they even remember that? Psychology explains this clearly. The human brain is selective. Most conversations fade quickly. Most details are discarded. When someone remembers the small things about you, it's not because they're trying harder. It's because your presence carries emotional weight. When attachment forms, the brain tags information connected to you as important, not logically important, emotionally important. That's when memory shifts from temporary to permanent. This goes deeper than remembering facts. They remember patterns. How your tone changes when you're tired. How you go quiet before opening up. How you smile when something hurts but you don't want to admit it. That means they're not just listening. They're observing. And observation, without emotional investment, doesn't last. Attachment makes attention stick. Not in an intrusive way, in a deeply human one. Because when someone feels emotionally connected, their mind keeps asking one quiet question. How do I stay close to this person? Remembering details becomes part of the answer. That's why they sometimes say exactly what you need to hear, without you asking. That's why they recall things you don't even remember sharing. You were speaking. They were connecting. And here's the truth memory never lies about. People remember deeply what they're afraid of losing, even subconsciously. So if someone remembers the smallest things about you, you already live somewhere permanent in their inner world. Sign 2. They feel your emotions without explanation. There's a level of connection that doesn't rely on words. You don't say you're tired. They hear it in your voice. You don't say you're upset. They sense it in your silence. You don't say anything is wrong. Yet they ask anyway. Psychology calls this emotional attunement. It forms when two nervous systems become familiar over time. And it only happens when attachment is present. When someone is emotionally connected to you, their brain begins tracking your emotional rhythms automatically, not deliberately, not consciously, instinctively. They notice when your laughter sounds different, when your energy feels heavier, when your replies shorten. Sometimes they sense it before you do. That's because attachment sharpens perception. Your emotional state doesn't stay contained within you anymore. It echoes. Mirror neurons in the brain allow humans to feel what others feel. When attachment is strong, those neurons become more responsive. Your sadness affects them. Your stress unsettles them. Your calm steadies them. This isn't something someone can fake. Interest listens to words. Attachment listens to energy. That's why when you emotionally pull back, even slightly. They feel uneasy. They sense the shift. And often, they respond with presence, not pressure. They check in. They stay close. They offer comfort without being asked. Because when someone is attached, your emotional balance becomes part of theirs. You're no longer just someone they know. You're part of their emotional environment. Sign 3. They struggle when you pull away. You don't make an announcement. You don't explain. You simply change. A little. Your replies take longer. You share less. Your energy feels different. And they notice immediately. Psychology explains this as attachment sensitivity. When closeness matters, distance feels louder. Even if nothing obvious has changed externally, something feels off internally. They may not confront you directly. Instead, you'll see subtle reactions, more questions, more checking in, a quiet effort to reconnect. This isn't control. It's emotional security seeking. Your presence stabilizes something inside them. So when it wavers, their system reacts, not because you did something wrong, but because you matter. People who aren't attached adapt easily. They don't feel disrupted by distance. Attached people feel the shift instantly, even if they hide it. Sign 4. They find reasons to stay. Connected, this one is quiet enough to be mistaken for coincidence. They don't chase. They don't confess. They just remain. A message about something small. A post that reminded them of you. A question they didn't really need to ask. There's no obvious reason for continued contact, yet it continues. Psychology calls this proximity-seeking behavior. When attachment forms, the mind looks for safe ways to maintain connection without risking rejection. So instead of saying, "I don't want to lose you," they say, "This reminded me of you." Instead of admitting longing, they choose presence. People don't repeatedly think about those who don't matter emotionally. Repetition is attachment. Sign 5. They protect you quietly. Sometimes attachment shows up as care without being asked. They notice when something feels off. They step in subtly. They check on you. They defend you without making it visible. Not for recognition, not for praise. Because attachment creates instinctive vigilance. Your comfort matters to them. Your safety matters to them. And even if they never say it, their actions already have. Deep attachment doesn't always speak. It lingers in attention, in memory, in emotional awareness, in quiet care. If you've recognized these signs, understand this. Someone who truly values you will show it, even when words fail. Recognizing these patterns isn't about overthinking. It's about understanding how deeply human connection works. And awareness is always the first step toward clarity.